it goes. Hey Ajit, how are you? Let me know if you can hear me okay. Ha, Techie SMS. How you doing, brother? Glad, yeah. If somebody can chime in the chat and tell me if you can hear me okay. Uh, Probably a little quiet. Let's see. Let's see the. Oh, glad to hear. Thanks for confirming that. Thanks everyone. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of latency between me speaking, getting to you, and then getting the reply back. I saw yesterday in the live stream options there was a way of setting it to low latency, so I'm going to try to do that. Actually, at least let me do it so you guys can see what I'm doing. Going into my studio. Then if I go to a live stream, all right, bring it to the main window here. So just gonna try to set the latency to a little bit lower. That way I'm not just sitting there waiting for replies and make the interaction a little bit easier. Let's see. Still getting used to a little bit of the ropes for live streaming. So thank you for the patience. Let's see. More options. Man, I've been trying Twitch as well, so maybe it was there that I saw the option for setting the latency to low, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's about 20 seconds, which is not too bad. Yeah, I do too. So if I type it out, yeah, it takes a while. All right, so let's see who's in the chat. All right, glad to hear you're doing well, Techie SMS. Uh, yeah, and we were chatting with Techie SMS a little bit earlier about some JavaScript troubles. And I don't know what your background is. For me, I studied electrical engineering, so I'm more comfortable with the electronics. But I did a little bit of web development when I was in grad school, used to make a little bit of extra money. So I picked up JavaScript, and it's probably my least favorite programming language from all the ones I know. But I have the experience, so I was happy to help you out. And Lucas, thanks for stopping by. And Sumit, how you doing? And I hope I'm pronouncing everybody's names kind of okay. I'm sure I'm butchering a few of them, but yeah, it goes with the territory of being out in the internet and being able to talk to so many people from different places. So, Colombia, nice. We got a fellow South American in the chat. Myself, I'm from Argentina, but been living out here in the US for about 20 years. Hi Tom, thank you so much for the compliment. I enjoy making videos, and my background is, as I mentioned, in electrical engineering, but I wanted to stay in academia, try to be a professor, teach at a university. And it's a long story. Maybe another day I'll tell it. But started doing this business of selling electronics. So I'm happy that as of last year, I was able to focus on making videos. And, they're fairly simple projects to some extent. I know for some people who are getting started, they might seem a little bit more advanced, but, it's not necessarily something world changing, the kind of things that I do. But it gives me the ability to interact with some of you and explain things, which is something that's one of the reasons I wanted to stay in academia, to try to explain concepts and pass on knowledge. So I'm glad a few people, it seems, are finding them useful. So glad that's the case for you. Haytham, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I see. So we got another representative of the electrical engineering world in Techie SMS, and I don't mind doing this. And yeah, I did a test stream yesterday, and I saw somebody talking about doing projects, and I asked, "Do you have a YouTube channel?" And I said, "Yeah, but I wasn't trying to advertise it. I was just talking about my project." I was like, don't worry, we're all friends here. At least that's how I treat the people in my channel. I reply to every comment and people on the stream. So anyway, I pulled up his channel. This is a long-winded way of saying that Techie SMS has a great YouTube channel that everybody should check out. If you're interested in my videos, then definitely check this out as well. I'll pull it up on the screen in a second. But yeah, good stuff. I'm glad to meet through the internet and through YouTube a lot of like-minded people working on similar things. Let's see. Yeah, JavaScript will take a while for it to click. But yeah, once it does, then yeah, it's a fun language. You can do a lot of things. I don't know. I just did a video, again, a very simple video, but it was, if you have seen it, I was controlling the background color of a web page with some potentiometers connected to an ESP8266, and I think I already put it away, but I was, what's the simplest way I can showcase the connection between the electronics and the web. And again, JavaScript is what provides that glue. I had an empty web page just without anything in it, and just with a few lines of JavaScript was able to get the messages over Wi-Fi from the electronics onto the page. And yeah, it's worthwhile for a lot of people, a lot of us working on this kind of projects, to just spend the time, as painful as it might be, to get into JavaScript. I see a couple more people signing on. It's Patrick. Thank you so much for the compliment. I'm glad. I don't know if you caught that, but I was saying before that I enjoy explaining things. So I'm glad for some people like yourself, you find that useful. It's a lot of fun for me, obviously it requires some effort, as anything that you either do for hobby. This is my line of work. So I put that extra effort to, try to represent myself in the workplace as best I can. But it's a lot of fun too. So I'm glad that while I'm having fun building things, it's useful for other people. And then Nicola, how you doing? So programming language, I can do a little laundry list. There's not one programming language to rule them all. If you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, yeah, there's not just the one thing that will work for every situation. So I use a programming language depending on the project that I'm working on. If I'm working, my two main platforms right now are the Raspberry Pi and anything in the Arduino space, mostly the ESP8266 or the ESP32. And for the Raspberry Pi, I use a lot of Python. I like Python a lot. If I had to say what's my favorite language right now, just how quickly I can develop a program, it would be Python, because not only myself, but a lot of people say it's very intuitive. It has its drawbacks, it has its negative things, but the positive things is that it's intuitive and you can almost think, okay, given my experience with the language, how would I do this? And you can, without Googling it, you can almost tell, exactly how the syntax work or what kind of method you need to call. For C++, I like C++, it's very powerful, but it's not what I would call intuitive. And then, JavaScript I've come to love. It's very useful, as I was saying before. So yeah, all sorts of languages. I love them all. Thanks, Fons. Welcome. Thanks for the kind words. I'm glad you enjoy the content in the channel. And this is a new for me. I've always been afraid or terrified to do the live streaming because reasons. Maybe in a different stream I'll say exactly why. But there was a beep. I have no idea what that means. Oh, thanks so much, Font Sam. I see a little alert popping up on my screen again. I'm new to streaming, so I just heard it on my headset that there was a little alert, and I saw that Fonts had made an awesome contribution. Thank you. But again, I enjoy doing this, and I'm glad people find it useful. I'm new to a live streaming. I was terrified to do it, but given the current health climate, I don't want to derail and talk about the negative stuff. I want us to distract ourselves and focus on the fun electronics. We have the rest of the day to worry about other things that are really important. But anyway, given the amount of time that we have inside, I was like, hey, let's give live streaming a go. And obviously, I still gotta figure out a few things. My camera just went out, but I just need to set the timer to never. It's a GoPro, and I'll, when I get the hang of it, it'll come back in just a second. Sorry that my image went dark, but so see, this is the kind of stuff that if I was just making a video, it wouldn't be a problem. There we are. I just came back, and in about 10 seconds, the image will go back to all of you. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff I could really easily edit it out. And yeah. All right. But anyway, it goes with the territory. So this is one of the reasons I was terrified, but everyone is so understanding and being so kind in the comments, even if you have something negative to say, right? Like, you made a mistake here, or there's another way you could have done that project. Everybody's super nice in the channel, and we're almost 21,000 right now, so that's pretty surprising. I've heard a lot of horror stories for people on YouTube getting trolls and negative comments, so I consider myself very lucky that a lot of you are, just nice people. You don't have to be nice, but at least be courteous and not be trolling on the internet if somebody's putting effort. So I'm glad we have a little community going on. So yeah, no, thanks so much, Fonts, for the kind words. All right, Ajit, that's actually a really good idea on how to make an Arduino library. Yeah, and because making a library is straightforward, and I'm not just saying this because I have experience, but honestly, it is straightforward. What's not straightforward is having Arduino list that library. If you go through the library manager and I can actually demo it. It'll take a little bit for the IDE to open. And at some point, I need to get back and try to figure out the latency, but I can do it for the next stream. I much rather talk to you and answer questions, but it takes a little bit of effort, and it's not very clear on how to get your library listed on Arduino, so that when you go through the tools menu and select the library manager, then anybody can publish it. You just, it's not only like the big companies like SparkFun or Adafruit or Arduino that are allowed to have libraries available through a manager. Anybody can have it there, have their own. That doesn't mean that people are gonna use it, but at least you can have it there and make it easy for others to find it. But it takes a little bit of configuration to make it there, to get it there, so I can explain that. That'd be a really cool video. So I'll put it on the list, as I always say, but since I like that idea, it'll probably be a little higher on the list. Let's see. Wagon Loads, welcome. How are you? Thanks for the kind words. I'm glad you find them useful. That's my goal, to make videos that people, at least one person, find it useful. If I get 1,000 dislikes and I get just one person with a like, I'm gonna take it to mean that they found it useful. So that's my goal, just one. And in this live stream, I've had certainly more than one. So I'm glad. British, how are you? And again, I'll say it many times. I'll keep apologizing for butchering people's names, just saying them wrong. I'm not doing it on purpose. So, is anybody working on a project or anything related to electronics? Let me know. I'd love to see what the community is working on. So. All right, Fonz. I will see you. Thank you for stopping by. And I'll try to make it so that I can announce when the live streams are going to happen. Right now, I'm just throwing it out there because I'm just testing things out. Once I iron out the details, then I'll make a schedule, or just find a way to let people know when I'll be live. I see. So me, unpredictable. It depends on what your goals are. They ask if is learning Arduino, sketching, MicroPython enough. I mean, if you're doing it as a hobby, then yeah, it's way more than enough for doing a bunch of projects. If you're trying to get a job, it's something, right? It limits some of the jobs that you might be able to apply for. And just my personal recommendation, if you're using it as a professional development experience, something that you want to use for your career, then I would add, if you want to stay in the hardware, just work on hardware and firmware programming. That's Arduino and MicroPython are good enough for an entry-level position. If you're looking at something more seriously, just learning C++ and a few other tools that I can talk about if you're interested. But if you don't want to be constricted to the hardware, then I would recommend doing JavaScript as well. I was talking with Techie SMS a little bit before, how that's the most, like, it's a most used language, the most widely used language, however you say that, programming wise. And because of all, and it depends on the list that you look at. Some people will say, well, actually Python over the past, it's not Python, maybe C++, but JavaScript, everything that runs on the web has JavaScript in it. So because there is so many applications to JavaScript, if you want to use it for your career, that has to be on your resume. It just opens a whole bunch of opportunities if you want to do anything related to the web. Even with hardware, right, we're connecting these devices to the internet, so it's useful to have in your in your tool set. And doesn't mean that you need to just learn JavaScript, right? You can still work with Arduino, with MicroPython, but once you connect to the web, make sure that on the other side, the thing that's talking to your hardware, you use a little bit of JavaScript, and that's a great way to learn it. So Wagon loads. Using ESP8266 to log data to MySQL. Okay. Nice. That's a great project. And it's funnily enough something that I want to do it, but I need to do it. I'm working with someone who is a friend, and this person works with AWS with a program that you get a certification in cloud management, blah blah blah, for students. And he wanted to do something in that regard where we develop a curriculum for students in that certification program that they use hardware to collect data and push it to, it has to be in the Amazon cloud, right, as part of that program. But it all goes down to a database, whether it's MySQL or anything else, right? The process is quite similar. So I was gonna start with MySQL, and I think I'll make a video out of it. So if anybody is interested in learning how to publish data to an Amazon instance, a cloud instance, and you can access that data from all the way across the world. I know that's a popular topic, a popular request. I'll be doing a project in that regard pretty soon, probably with Raspberry Pi, the first one, just because that's the tool they're using. But I won't forget about our ESP8266 or ESP32 people. Again, keep the questions coming. I'll be working first on trying to figure out the last few details about the stream, and then carrying on with my work. I want to see just people coming in, and then whenever you want to go, by all means do so. But I'll be here for a while, giving other people the chance to jump on the live stream. So, but thanks for everybody who stopped by and who's had the time to say hello over the chat. I see Ajit, man, respect, full stack web developer, nice. I see, but I guess for you, Ajit, then the hardware is where you're trying to gain a little bit more experience. And again, I think it was you who chimed in that one of the videos. Thank you for doing that. I always encourage people to chime in, and if every time I go down through the comments, everybody's super nice. So I'm very lucky not to have trolls or people being mean in the comments. So even if that was the case, I would still encourage feedback and communication. But since we have a great community going on, by all means, anytime anybody has a comment they want to share, by all means, go ahead. And yeah, if it's a question that you still have and you think I can answer without taking forever, or if you want to figure out yourself, by all means. But I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has while I'm on live stream. So, and I might as well, I'll show it off a few times. Part of this whole preparation for doing live streaming is I want to work on projects while live streaming. So I have my other camera set up which will show up on your stream in a second, so that I can show projects right there. And you can see the camera behind me right here. That's the one that I use for filming my own videos, but I have it so that the stream can switch back and forth between the cameras, like live streamers do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how much you guys, but I'm having fun with this experience. So hopefully I don't wear your patience out. I I think it changed at least. Uh, but anyway, all right. Hey John, I'll get to that one in a second. I'll finish. I just question. I see. It's not necessarily that strange, but yeah, I'm glad we have another electrical engineer in the group. Just because I was bullied by mechanical engineers, and all of my friends were mechanical engineers, so I was always bullied out. I'm glad we have a few E's out here. But it's not necessarily a weird combination. After the Internet of Things, IoT started, a bunch of electronics engineers not jumped ship, but started doing a lot of IoT related projects, and they wanted to be as full stack as possible. So starting from the hardware and learning some of the web technologies, not necessarily all the way to front end, but at least on the back end, talking to a server and all that. Yeah, I've seen a few. So it's a great combo, I think. Uh, Volume is low. Sorry about that. Let's see. Let me know. Trying to see. Turn on the gain on the mic. And which is back here. See. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Is this a little bit better, Imram? John, actually, I won't fully disclose it just yet, but I jumped on Twitch as well, just trying the two different platforms. And so I'm trying things there. When I get them polished, I don't have any sort of following or anything. I'm brand new to Twitch. So that's a reason number one. I have a few people that I can interact with on YouTube. But for the purpose of live streaming, I want to stay. Volume is very good. Okay, awesome. My freaking camera keeps turning off. That'll be my. So in your image, I'll go off in a second and then it'll come back on. Sorry about that. I'll fix it in a little while. The community has a preference, so for one platform versus the other. I know for YouTube we think of videos and doing it after, and when we think of Twitch is the whole live streaming. But that's just my opinion. Let's see what the community thinks. John, do you have a preference of one platform versus the other? I'd be happy to hear what you think. I see Imran, 50%. That's a, I'll take that. A good percentage. Do you think it could be a little bit higher? I don't want to like people who are wearing headphones. I don't want to blow out their. I don't want to blow out their ears. No worries, Ajit. Yeah. Just we have a great community, I think. So yeah, I like I like the community we have. So it's not necessarily a compliment. I speak truly. Let's see. Subash, how you doing? How can you approach me for some code for your college project? There's a variety of ways. I can, it's a college project, and the professor in me, I wanted to be a professor. So the professor in me will only let me guide you as opposed to. Ah, weird. Hang on. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. I have noise canceling headphones, and I'm always terrified that somebody's gonna complain that I'm like yelling or something. But some of the neighbors, sorry about that. Uh, let's see. All right. Yeah. Now I can hear things from outside. So I was telling Subash that the little professor in me will only allow me to just guide you in what you're trying to achieve. I won't answer a college project for you, but there's a variety of ways. I'm trying to get a Discord going, and that's just for if somebody doesn't know, that's a chat application, and I'll post the link right now on the messages on the chat, and if people want to join in, then we can start a community that way. If somebody has a different idea, because comment on the YouTube videos, it takes me a while to go through all of them, and the community. I think I encourage people to use the community page on the YouTube channel, but that's ain't nobody got time for that, as people say. So I think just starting a Discord, I'm gonna give that a try. So let me. It's another thing. Since I don't work for a company or any of the sort, I don't use this tool. So yeah, I gotta get used to it. So the way I'm pulling up the link is by going to the GitHub page where I know it's actually used, and I'm just gonna copy it and put it here on the chat. And then what that pulls is, this is for if anybody hasn't seen it. I don't know how common it is. It was recommended to me by somebody else. Somebody invited me to one of their Discord group chats. I was like, this is actually useful for just trying to organize our little community on my YouTube channel to ask questions and get a hold of me a little bit easier. Email is also not very practical. So, and then with Techie SMS, another content creator, earlier today we were using Instagram. Like, we're direct messaging on Instagram for solving an issue. So let's see. And then so this is the little application, and I have a little group that I actually created it yesterday, which was my first live stream where I've done 2 before then, but I don't necessarily count those. But yesterday was the first stream, and I was okay. I need to just get things into place. So hello everyone. And then I'll try to keep it organized. I have a general chat where we can just chat about anything, but I'll try to make specific sub chats that you can see here on the left hand side for specific things, like frequently asked questions about specific topics that I know a lot of you have. I'll try to group them there and try to make it more useful for everyone. Nice. PJ, second server. That's awesome. But yeah, so this guy, Brian Locke, he's the one who introduced me to Discord, and he uses it for, he's another content creator, and great guy. He uses it for even doing customer support. He sells some of the electronics that he makes. So yeah, pretty good tool. And but yeah, Imran, I am happy with Discord, and the more I get to know Twitch, the more I'm liking it, John. So yeah, thanks for the recommendation. both John and Imran. Oh yeah, yeah, it's pretty terrible. I'll show you, John, why I have to do that. Um, I'm using for streaming. I'm using Streamlabs OBS, and yeah, with Twitch. So, I cannot multi-stream, which is kind of frustrating. Meaning I cannot, and I'm sure it's because Twitch and YouTube are competing for the live streaming space, which is fine. But and then Streamlabs have to make peace with both of them, so I have to log out and re-log in if I wanna do Twitch stream. So I'm logged in on my YouTube account right now, and if I go to try to reply to the messages just from the app, then I can't. For Twitch, it lets me do it here, and it lets me do bot commands as you mentioned, just from Streamlabs itself. So even that integration with Streamlabs, it's a lot better just using Twitch. So yeah, I mean, again, I want to, even if I alternate between the two, say one on Mondays I live stream on YouTube, on Thursdays or whatever I live stream on Twitch, then yeah, as long as everybody's getting the content delivered where they prefer. Because at the end of the day, right, if I'm not, if people do not find the live streams useful, then yeah, as much fun as you might think it is to talk into a camera, it's not, right. So I'd rather focus on the projects. But if I need to like split my time between the two platforms, then that's great, as long as people are finding it useful. But I appreciate the recommendation. I just asked if I'm petting any dragons in my backyard. Oh, I actually am. In one of my next live streams, again, when I have a better sense of what's going on, I will introduce you to my dragons. I have two of them, and they're just, yeah, as you can tell from the shirts, I have a couple of pit bulls that are awesome. One of them is super, super chill. The other one is a dragon, but yeah, she's probably part dragon. And but she'll, yeah, so I'll show them off on the stream. Not quite dragons, but not that far from it either. Let's see, I think I missed a couple of messages. All right, so we improved the volume. And then Subash, all right, so use the Discord, send me a message for that GPS, and I'll try to guide you. So flexible PCBs, me unpredictable. For inertial sensor modules, for mocap gloves, the thing is, the yeah, it's an improvement over the rigid PCBs, but let me see. Right, the problem with the flexible PCBs is that the chips on it are rigid, right? So there's always a worry that if you flex them enough times, the pads will come off. So they do have their applications, but it's not necessarily for going like this multiple times, right? Whenever we see flexible PCBs, there are for things that are, like the little OLED screens. Yeah, I have one here, but things that are gonna be bent. But other than like a little bit of flexion, they're not gonna be, bending all that much. So that's where flexible PCBs come in for the most part. Not to say that it cannot be done, but it's tricky, and it's not necessarily like the solution for how to do that. That's why we don't see a whole lot of gloves out there, right? Like that's a fairly new technology, and most of them, what they use is a strain gauge. So you're bending the sensor and you have the electronics somewhere else that are detecting that bend. But let's see, you could do, my advice or my challenge for you is doing something more like Minority Report. If you've seen the movie, like just have trackers on your fingers and do gesture recognition. I think that'd be even more awesome. But any solution you come up with is great, as long as you pursue the project. Don't get caught on like, oh, it needs to be perfect. Just give it a try, iterate. The whole thing with electronics is just iteration, iteration, iteration. Complex projects, ain't nobody got time for that, unfortunately. I'm actually, so I'll bring it over. Let me see. This is, I'll get to use my workbench camera. It'll take a second to pop up, but yeah, so this is the most complex project I've worked with recently, and it's not very complex. It's just one of those robotic car kits. But what's complex is the actual software, where I'm trying to run, if you're familiar with the Donkey Car project, where people have this remote control car, they sort of rip it apart, putting a Raspberry Pi and a camera, Raspberry Pi camera, and try to make it drive itself. And they do competitions all over the place, but mostly in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and it's just a DIY group. So I'm trying to run that software on here, and I did a video on how any of you can do that and at least get the software running. The second step is building a little track here in my garage just with tape, and then using that software I get to drive it around manually and collect images from the camera and steering angles from the two wheels. So you collect thousands and thousands and thousands of those data points and upload it. You can upload it to Amazon, download it to your computer because the Raspberry Pi is not powerful enough. Run machine learning algorithms, and again, they have a package that do all that for you. And then you build a model, you put it back onto the Raspberry Pi, and have the Raspberry Pi use that model to try to figure out, when it sees an image from the camera, it's like, okay, I got a line here and a line here. My wheels need to be like this or like that, right? It tries to use that information, run it through the model, and then predict what its behavior should be. So I wanna do that. I wanna be able to show off that little dude driving around a track here by itself. I think it'd be cool. But again, I'm using other people's software, not necessarily, adapting that software already to use this just by myself. It's it's a decent amount of work, but because I also have to run a business and manage the selling of the electronics, then unfortunately I don't get enough time as I would like to spend on a complex project. So that's roughly as complex as they get. I'm also working on another project actually, and I'll make it short. Well, I wanted to explain why I'm doing that project, but yeah. Which is, I'm using a couple of infrared sensors to detect, when something passes through it. So this is an emitter, this is a receiver, and it's they go about 5 meters. It's an infrared laser. It's just a beam of light. And I want to use it so that when I have a bird feeder, like a little bird, when it flies through it, you snap a camera with my fancy camera, get some nice automated photos of birds, while flying, like as they're landing to the feeder. So I'll be happy to post a link to that video on on our little Discord. But yeah, that's a. It's not necessarily complex, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. Uh-huh. All right, catching up with the chat. Yeah, Discord and Twitch. So Wagon Loads tell me that they studied circuit design since high school. Wow. Okay. I didn't get into it until college. I've always like tinker with Legos and try to like take out toys of RC cars, put them in the Legos, but never like formal training in anything dealing with electronics. So nice. From high school, very nice. I see robotics as a business. I see. Yeah, I try to keep the. So they're saying wagon loads that yeah the terminology sometimes is confusing. I try to stay away from terminology. I'll throw it out there so that people are aware of, you know, what's that thing called. But I try to keep it to a minimal. And sometimes I'll use the terms loosely. So if I have a computer science major listening to me explaining some code, that probably like raise their eyebrow a little bit, and it's like, you know, I want to reach as broad of an audience as possible, and I feel like using a lot of jargon gets in the way of that. So, but now I'm curious, wagon loads. Now you have to elaborate a little bit. What kind of business around what area of robotics? Myself, I did electrical engineering in college, and I wanted to do something related to robotics, and I couldn't find out why. But at the time, this was 10, 12 years ago, the drones, there were no drones. Like you could not go to a store and buy like a really nice quadcopter that can fly by itself. That's all like fairly new. So I wanted to work in that area, and the closest I got was working on unmanned but ground vehicles, and that was a lot of fun. I can talk about it in a different stream, the project there, but it was a lot of fun. We before Elon Musk and Tesla were developing this nice driverless technologies, and everybody else in that competition just people know Elon. That's why I reference him, but it's a pretty neck to neck competition. Um, we built a or we used a car like a huge van, put a lot of sensors and a motor on the steering wheel, but it's a full size car, and we made it driverless. And this was at university with a team of students, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, tell me what kind of robotics would you be interested in getting into? And as Ajit says, yeah, some of those terms they are very much tied to the object-oriented programming. Once you get away from the simple variables, like you probably know what's an integer, an int, right, or a double. Once you get past those simple variable types, there are more complex types, and that's when the code word there is data structures. And once you go beyond that, you get into these things called classes, which is, as Ajit is saying, the when you get into the object-oriented programming. So fun stuff, but it takes a little bit to get the handle of it. I was there, we've all gone through that process. But once you get it, you'll see like, yeah, this is pretty useful. Ha. Me unpredictable. That's a great question, and I will show you the solution. Because I have it for a project. I wasn't prepared for showing this off. It's just sitting on my desk because I need to work on it. But this is what you need. Um, I'm blanking out on the name, of course. But the idea is just a simple bearing in the middle. And you connect things, let's say your camera or anything that's on top, to these cables, and then you connect this to your microcontroller or whatever else, and then these things are free to spin. So one side is able to spin, right? without tangling the wires on the other. I know I'm not doing a great job of demonstrating, but if you can believe me, I'm like turning the top, and you can see that the bottom doesn't tangle up. And it's gonna annoy me that I don't know the name, so I'm gonna look it up sheepishly on Google. Rotating bearing with cables. uh, Slip ring is the word I was looking for. So that's a slip ring that you probably want to use if you're making anything that's rotating. But yeah, it sounds like something you can do. Because yeah, I can see a fun project where you shine a light to the sensor and you move it around, and then the camera has to track that light. that that'd be a fun one, just to test out a simple test. I'm sure you want to do things probably that are more complex than that, but just a quick test that you have everything in place. That's a piece of code I would write. So iteration one of your project is come on man, camera keeps shutting off. All right. And then so iteration one of the project is great. Nice, glad to hear. My friend Reactor, I am not in Argentina. I left South America many years ago. We're coming up on 18 years, 1-8. So I came out to go to college here and just stayed because, things are a little bit more stable. You might not think so, but things are more stable in the US than back in South America, just consistently, right? So yeah, happy. I go back about twice a year, but for now I'm just established here in the west coast of the United States, in LA, near LA, in a city called Pasadena in California. And wagon load, so something similar to Boston Dynamics. That's a pretty. I mean, I'm rooting for you. That's a great goal to set on your site. But yeah, NASA Mars rover, nice. But but you want to do it as your own business, nice. It might not necessarily be a bad thing to get work experience in one of those places and then try to translate it back to your own business. So yeah, thanks. How about yourself, Reactor? Where are you located, if you don't mind me asking? Let's see. I was. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you something. Wagon loads is a couple of people, not necessarily that you should follow, but to check out. Not this. This is me being an idiot on Instagram. Always use incognito mode, right? Like you never know what you're gonna find. All right. So I'm not gonna remember this people off the top of my head. That's why I'm just bringing it up here. I'm gonna go people I'm following. So this is one guy, James Bruton, who is like very well known for doing cool DIY, very complex robotics projects. But the other one I want to show you, I think it's this guy. Let me see. Yeah, so this guy has, I know he's working on it. I don't know if it's his design, but he was working on a DIY version of a you know, a Spot Mini or whatever it is from Boston Dynamics. So by all means, feel free to check it out. Is start from here. Yeah. So James Bruton, he does OpenDog, but then this one, I like this one because it's more manageable. What James does, it's something that you really have to dedicate a whole lot of time, a whole lot of cash to making that type of project. But the other guy, the I make robot guy, his version seems that anybody can do it, just a bunch of servos and a 3D printer. If you have access, then you're good to go. So me unpredictable asks if they were, let's see, wanted to bring down the chat to the main screen so you can see, but and I'm showing you stuff. There we go. Sorry. Come on. I think. Main. All right. Sorry, switched screens for a second without wanting to do it. Now we're back. So, me unpredictable asks if they use a lens with a variable focal length, will it be possible to make an IR depth sensor calculate precise distances of every range? And the answer is yes. For precision, you don't want to use IR. You want to use laser, right? So you get a LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, just uses laser for measuring out that distance, that time of flight. And depending on how much money you're willing to spend, you can get the distance down to the millimeters. It's a type of sensor that robots use in industrial applications. So all the little robots, if you ever seen instead of like me waving my hands, I need to get used to showing on the screen. But it's the sensors that robots in the Amazon warehouses use. And you obviously don't need necessarily the 360 if you're doing focal length. You just need single point. But that's what you would use for distance measurements. And then you can build a contraption around the camera lens that adjusts the focus. But if not to advertise myself too much, but I did a video where you can control your camera through USB from a Raspberry Pi with a library called YPhoto 2. You can use that also to adjust focus and zoom and all that good stuff depending on your camera type and the lens that you're using. So that's something that you can start instead of building a contraption to physically move the lens, adjust the focus. You can do it via software, again depending on your camera and depending on the type of lens that you have. But come on. So it's this video right here, the Raspberry Pi. So I was doing something with a motion detector when something moved in front of the camera and just snapping a picture. And I also hooked up an ultrasonic sensor to whenever whenever the object would be close enough to the camera or the Raspberry Pi, which is where the sensor was connected, then it would snap a photo. So you're welcome to check that out. And then reactor. Oh man, TensorFlow, nice. Um, and then what do you plan on using the MQTT or the REST API for? I mean, once you detect the objects from the images, would it be to send, let's say, how many cars pass in a certain amount of time over MQTT or over the REST API to a server somewhere? But this is, I don't think anyone from the start of the stream, anyone from the start of the stream is here, but I mentioned that Techie SMS stopped by to say hello, and he has a great YouTube channel, so I encourage everyone to go have a look. Again, it's not a sponsor message. I just like the community we have, so happy to give people shout outs. It doesn't cost me anything, and I hope it doesn't bother anyone either. All right, reactor. So sending that data. I mean, my usual answer is why not both? Meaning just give either a try. Personally, I think the REST API is a little bit simpler, but if that gives you an excuse to mess around with MQTT, then yeah, I would I would say that's a good use of a project to learn something new, right? Uh, I have no idea where my there it is. Lost my browser window for a second. MQTT it is. Nice. Are you posting this somewhere? GitHub, YouTube? I want to have a peek. As someone who is using TensorFlow, at least as a black box for the project I have on my workbench, I'd be very much interested. You know, it's something that I've been wanting to play around with, some of the newest machine learning tools, but I haven't had the time. So this is my first project where I have the time, and you know, people from the community are using it. I'd be happy to go have a look. Oh, nice. If it works, that's a that's a reasonable parameter. But I don't know. I found at first I was terrified of putting stuff out there on the web because oh it needs to be 100% perfect or people are gonna complain, and I mean I still put effort and everything has to have a certain level of quality, but yeah, people don't necessarily, or I've never found anyone to complain. They just don't care and move on, and that's fine. All right, so MQTT for our own websites, yeah, I need to do that project because the only time I've done an MQTT video was using somebody else's platform, Cayenne, and I need to, for myself and obviously for the community, show how to run an MQTT server on our own, or on our own servers on our own. I'll probably use something on the cloud, But yeah, that's something that is very very useful. I hate people, say paying money or using services that are not needed. So yes, I'll make a point of that. In fact, I need to take a screenshot because otherwise I'll forget, and people will say, "Hey, remember that chat conversation?" So I'm taking a screenshot right now. And then there was another project request I had, trying to find it. Oh, yeah, pushing data to a database, whether it's MySQL or something like that. So, yes, you don't think I'm lying? Yeah, these are all the things that I need to remind myself of. And then, sorry, I haven't been paying that much attention to the Discord, but I think people just signed on, which is exactly the point, and we can keep the discussion on the YouTube chat. No worries, wagon loads. My camera will die shortly, and it'll come back as usual, but I'll figure this out for the next stream. Stupid time limit. So what microcontroller advanced to? I think I mean, a lot of people are doing projects using the SAM chips with the ARM architecture, and I don't. It's a very very powerful chip. Like the latest Teensy board carries one of those chips. The latest Feather board from Adafruit also carries those chips. So I know there's a lot of buzz, but yeah, all the fun projects that I want to do require a connection to the internet, and there isn't a competitor to the ESP32 right now with Wi-Fi capabilities. So all the SAM chips are very very grunty, and they can do a whole lot of stuff, like even run TensorFlow on a microcontroller. But yeah, it's I haven't gotten into those. So if you find one that it's really cool and you find an application that looks interesting, by all means send me a message either here or on Discord. I'd be happy to take a look and expand, because yeah, for now it's used ESP32, ESP8266 sometimes, and the Raspberry Pi when I want to do something more high level. So you want to load? That's a great question. The answer is no. Um, the ESP32, the first generation, has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Obviously, no HID. The one that's being released right now has HID capabilities, but no Bluetooth. So hopefully, maybe the next gen will have both of them. Maybe I'll create a folder streaming. this guy. So there's 4 of them. Oh, no, this yeah, all the way around. So when to use ARM versus ESP32? So ARM chips do not have uh, I mean, I don't think there is a single one of them that has Wi-Fi capabilities, and if they do, I don't quote me on that because I don't know the full spectrum of ARM chips. But if one of them does, it doesn't have the support that the ESP32 has, meaning all the libraries from a web server library in the Arduino ecosystem, right? You'll need to use the ARM tools and their development uh, packages, like their IDE, and finding support there from the community. Like right now you can come to me or go on Google or go to a whole bunch of people and ask questions. It's just not quite there, right? It's more for a professional setting, but you do have the guarantee of a professional company, of customer support that is going to cost you a pretty penny, right? Like just companies are the ones who benefit from that, who have the pockets and the revenue to justify that. But for the makers, one of the applications is if you need to do like very, very, you know, in computationally intensive processing of data, then these chips are much more capable than the ESP32. But ESP32, man, you can do a whole lot, right? It's at least the first generation has 2 cores, so you can run things in parallel. Unfortunately, the newest generation only has ice back to 1 core, but it's pretty darn fast in terms of processing. But yeah, so you lose some, you win some, so it depends on the application. Because say the feather, the one of the latest feather boards from Adafruit has an an ARM chip connected to an ESP32, so the ESP32 does all the Wi-Fi stuff, and then so you can do that as well. You can use them both as a solution. So yeah, Reactor LoRa is at least for the past few years, right, getting quite a bit of traction. I have some LoRa boards in my store as well, and I haven't done a single project. Uh, Actually, they're sitting somewhere here on my desk because the very simple one I wanted to do is take an ESP8266, a normal one, then and one of the boards that are called Pro that have a ceramic antenna, and then a LoRa board, and just go out to a field somewhere and just whack and demonstrate, how much more range you get with LoRa. Just a very simple video, and it would be my first video done outdoors. So it's on my to-do list. Once we're able to go outside, I'll do that. But see, got another notification. Nice little subscription notification, which I'm getting used to, by the way. Um, so yeah, it's just a different protocol reactor. LoRa. Again, I'll give you the 1,000 feet up explanation for optimizing the consumption of power. So it's not too distinct in terms of the technology. Like we hear a fancy term for it, but it's just a glorified Wi-Fi that has been optimized for being able to consume less power than traditional Wi-Fi, and be able to, work at longer distances. Let's see. Rudolph, welcome to the chat, my friend. So you've been using ESP and painless mesh? I see, but not very stable. It's on my to-do list again, alongside Laura, getting into some of the more complex applications of networking, like doing meshes. So I don't, off the top of my head, I would have to research to see what are the best libraries out there. I would say, you know, the way things are going, I'm gonna get through videos pretty quickly, right? Since I can focus all of my time in recording and editing videos. But that's another one. I'll take a screenshot of your message to remind myself that I need I need to get a move on that. Let's see. And what happens? Does it just stop working after a little while? Even with five devices, it just connections start dropping. The most cost-effective MQTT software as a service, my friend, you're going to have to, yeah, no worries. You're gonna have to tell me, because anytime I've done a project with MQTT, it's either on the free tier of some of the services. The service I've used is Cayenne IoT, and you know they full disclosure, they paid me to do a video for them, and I knew one of the people working there and they're local, so I didn't mind. And yeah, so that's on the screen what I use, and they have a free tier, and they'll work with companies, but obviously don't disclose the pricing, meaning they'll work with them to see how many devices and things like that, how much reliability, and work their pricing from there. That's the only one I know of as a service, because otherwise I'll just do roll out my own. But these are not for commercial applications, right? Where you need, some level of support, some guaranteed uptime. So sorry, I can be more helpful there. I think I have everyone. I'm always paranoid with this cloud stuff. I have to check things a gazillion times. Cayenne, yeah, and they're not a huge uh, company, so some some things might be a little tricky, but it's definitely, it's an actual company, different than things like ThinkSpeak and other ones. Not to bash on them, right? And I think ThinkSpeak, I don't know if they handle MQTT, and they did raise some funds, so they're a proper company now. But the Cayenne people, they're inside a larger software company, so they have deeper pockets to put these teams together and try to tackle new and upcoming things. The free tier is closed. Yeah, it used to be open. I think I made that video like 2 years ago. I think, as I mentioned, I'm gonna do a uh, yeah. Uh, Let me finish that sentence. Cloud MQTT, nice. And how much do they? Do you know how is that a paid service? I should ask. But yeah, Heroku is something that I would always recommend. I don't know how easy it is to run an MQTT server on Heroku, since it's a little bit limited, right? And different than an Amazon instance, a cloud instance, where you have full control of the server. On Heroku, it's a little bit more limited about the things you can do, at least with the free tier. Is what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, and Blink, they've contacted me a few times to make videos for them. But as I mentioned a little bit ago, I always want to show people how to do this stuff for free, because most of you are either hobbyists or you're working on a prototype, and I know how tight money might be when you just want to get something in front of investors. At least that's been my experience. So I always, the few times I've done videos on that topic, I've kept it with truly free software, but you gotta build it yourself. You gotta do installations by yourself on servers. And while I'm chatting, the next thing I want to do is kill off the stupid timer on the camera, because it's driving me crazy. So it's gonna go out for a few seconds once again. Hopefully this will be the last time it goes out on you all. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Joe. I switched my rig to finally use the webcam I wanted, which is a GoPro, but it keeps turning off. So when it comes on, you'll see me waving my phone and the camera, which is what I use to control it. So, all right. So, well, it's in Spanish, but yes, I've the setting for the stupid automatic shut off. I will get. I will turn it off. All right. And that right now it's off because I'm configuring it. All right. Changing it to never. And turning off the app so you can get the image back. So sorry about that, but in a few seconds it should be back on. Watch me struggle with this on the, let's see, if I add the webcam from my computer, you should at least get some image. While I troubleshoot that one. There we go. That's from my webcam. And we'll just put it here. You can see it. All right. Get to see me troubleshooting live. Useful for you, the videos coming up. Well, I think it might be just this one for now. And what's annoying is that I can't put your messages on this screen because that's the one that's being broadcast, and I don't want to change too much around. But when I want to read the messages and I have to go like that, and then to reply I need to remind myself not to look at the message but to look at the camera, make the interaction a little bit better. But hey, thank you for being patient with all this shenanigans. It So Joe, yeah, it does seem pretty warm, but I have, the whatever, the Hero 8, which comes with a little media module that is very annoying because yeah, it's kind of silly. I can rant about it because it does have an out. They want to take more of your money, so you got to put it inside a media module that doesn't have very many electronics, and it breaks it out into an HDMI out and a USB-C out. It's like, really. Anyway, so I just got that. That was released about 3 weeks ago, and if I touched that before, it didn't overheat, but I wasn't outputting stuff to HDMI. Now with the media mod, as they call it does get fairly warm. But yeah, you see, I do like it as a camera. I use it, for a little bit of snow sports. Uh, you know, I do a little bit of snowboarding, and that camera, I can attest that it can take a beating. um, but I decided to try to get as most use of it out of it as possible. So I was thinking about buying a little webcam for starting to live stream, and I was like, nah, you know what? I already have a GoPro. Why spend more money? So this is the first stream where I'm trying it, and the only annoyance was that I hadn't turned off the automatic turn off timer, which is kind of silly because if I have it connected to HDMI, right, I would think that signal would tell it to just not turn itself off, but that wasn't happening. And once I found a way to shut that timer off, then I don't know what happened, and now it's not outputting. But yeah, and that's one of the problems with cheaper cameras. Just some of the capabilities. I used to have one of those like $30 ones that can do almost as good resolution or same resolution. Maybe the colors are a little bit off, but at the beginning of the year, I went on a bit of a crazy trip to Alaska, and I was like, well, I might not come back alive. So if I if I die, then let it be in like super high resolution, blah blah blah. So that's the only time I decided to just go for the actual stuff. Yeah, no, the timer, it's pretty useful, right? Because these cameras are not meant to be connected to power constantly. So yeah, which is how I have it set up right now, and also to prevent the the battery from being overdrained. And it makes sense that the default setting is actually very generous. It's set to 15 minutes. I just forgot to turn it off, and this is the first time I'm trying it for live streaming. So paying paying for my rookie mistake. That's a great project idea. Wagon leads a lot of, I don't, not gonna say a lot of people, but a few people are interested in the communication between two devices. That's gonna be my next project. I'll give you a sneak preview. I want to, just to showcase the usability of communicating between two boards over Wi-Fi. I want to have a magnetometer connected to an ESP32. I'm gonna use I've done it with ESP8266. I want to do it with ESP32. I want to have a magnetometer connected to one and some sort of LED thing connected to the other, probably a ring of the NeoPixel LEDs, and I just want to be able to rotate the one with the sensor and have the LEDs display where the magnetic north is relative to the one with the compass, with that magnetometer sensor, which is not necessarily an incredibly revealing project, but it's one that showcases in a fun way the communication between the two. So taking that a step forward and having that communication happen over the internet would certainly be fun. I want to get a little bit more into those type of videos where, say, I go outside, I leave something filming here, and I really show that I can control things over the internet. Because the way I typically do it is just I jump on my phone, I shut off Wi-Fi, and then, but that's not a great way of demoing, control across the internet. Because if I shut off Wi-Fi on my phone, right, it has to go through the data network. But I don't think that's as clean of a concept as me walking or driving a few miles and still doing things in my house. Yeah, exactly. Waggle nodes, the MPU. I don't know if that exact model, but yeah, one of those sensors for, yeah, which is only, it's a 3 degree of freedom, right? It only senses, not even 2 degrees of freedom, the magnetic field on 2 axes, as opposed to a full IMU. But yeah, exactly. They're much better for outdoor applications, the GoPros, or even if you put them inside water, they can survive. But probably the roughest environment they face is inside a room like this. So yeah, the MPU 6050, that's the one I would use. Yeah, the 9250 does sound like the 6050 on steroids. I'm gonna try to shut off this guy. That new camera. The typical solution. Just turn it off, turn it back on, see what happens. Nope. Oh, maybe. Yeah. It required the good old reboot, I think. Alright, so I can turn this guy off, which is this guy. Tuck. So I'll be moving around in your screens and then everything will be back to normal. The image, I mean. Alright, and the timer hopefully should be off. Let me double check. Thank you for the patience, by the way, and for serving as my guinea pigs for testing out this whole live streaming thing. Hey, Palanivel, welcome. I think we're in business, people. Nice. Oh man, that sounds like a fun project. Wagon loads. Nice. Um, yeah, I know of the existence of SkyMap, but never quite used it myself. I want to do a project for doing some astrophotography. I'm gonna borrow a different camera from a friend and try to make one of those rigs where you can do the multi-day exposures. So yeah, that'll require a little bit more time. So the more videos I have up on the channel, the more time I'll be able to spend on other videos, right? But for right now, they just have to be short and simple so that it only takes me a couple of days to get them up there. But yeah, that sounds like a fun project. Let me know how it goes. And yeah, I'll repeat this information for people who just jump on the stream that we're trying to start a Discord chat. So for our little community on the Acrobatic channel, that way you can get a hold of me and we can exchange ideas with other people in the community about what projects we're working on, what questions we have, and what ideas you all have for me trying to build in front of the camera. So I'll put the link. I'm looking through it through the chat, and I'll paste it down here once again. You're welcome to join. And again, I just started it yesterday, so not a whole lot of activity just yet. All right, Palanivel asks, using two ESP8266 as clients and one of them as servers, the data from the client need to be sent to the server. Thing is that one ESP8266 can act both as a server and as a client. So I have one example. If you look through the videos where I have used one board acting as a server and the other board acting as a client. But if you add the client code to the server code, you can send the information and the server code on the client side, you can send information back and forth. So it sounds that your server also needs to, if I read that correctly, yeah, even just using the web client library for ESP8266, you can have the client library send data. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but the client library, we think, okay, that's for receiving data, for acting as a client, but it can also make requests and send data as part of those requests. But if it's easier, at least to get started, you can just include the web server library and use a server request for sending those data to the other board, or for receiving the request from other boards asking for that data. If that makes sense, let me know if that didn't. So just to make it a little bit more succinct, the web server library and the web client libraries are the only ones you need. Yeah, exactly. Like Joe was saying, full duplex communication. And I mean, my personal favorite would be the thing is that I have that example for running server code and client code. But if you start looking at all of my WebSocket videos, I haven't used them between two boards. So promise, like the next video I post, maybe 2 videos from now, it'll be exactly that, using just WebSockets to do that communication between two boards without thinking of one as a client, another one as a server. It'll be just 2 devices talking to each other. So if you hang in there, it's coming. So Susan owning 50% of YouTube. Yeah, no thought. I'm one of those people who really stays away from all the politics or whatever, and I'm of the opinion, which a lot of people find controversial, that it's a private company, and if they change the policies as unfair as we think they are, those changes are, it's like, they can. It's same with Facebook, right? People get all rattled up when they do shady stuff, and it's like, you know, why? How is it surprising? Like, yeah, you can still be mad, but companies on their platform are gonna do. This is not a democracy, right? The way those companies are being run. Yes, there's public interest and all that, but at the end of the day, they can just do whatever they want as a privately run company and not part of, a government or governmental organization. So I'm kind of one of those people who are just, whether we're at the mercy of them, I'll get pissed off if something affects me, but not that much. Just like, here we go again. Companies being terrible, because usually it's a negative thing. So that's my opinion. Yeah, no, the a lot of companies are trying to get into that space of, esports, and yeah, Amazon. I don't know how much they paid for Twitch, but that's gonna be the next big thing. Platforms for doing gaming. So not surprised that Facebook is trying to get into that race. They never, they were also trying to get into the content creation side of things, and a lot of people will cross post their stuff on Facebook, but they I don't think they ever figure out the monetization and a few things that are required to be a content creation, particularly a video. When I say content, I'm specifically mean video creation platform. So I don't know if they couldn't figure that out. I don't know if they'll be able to do so for gaming. Nice. I'm proud of you, uh, Joe. Deleting it back in 2014. That's way before it was cool to delete Facebook. For me, I you know I don't even use it anymore, so I don't have an excuse. But when I did use it up until like 2016, 2017, I moved to the US by myself, so it's just a good way of indirectly finding out about people on a different part of the world. But even they stopped posting, and it became, at least my experience on Facebook, it was a bunch of pages, a bunch of memes, and yeah, I stopped using it. I didn't necessarily delete my account. I want to keep that, but I deleted the app and I only use the business side. And it's such a terrible experience that my business page, Acrobatic, on Facebook is just a meme page. Like, I run it as a meme page and I just post memes related to programming and electronics to keep it relevant. But yeah, nothing of substance. Like, even if sometimes if I post a YouTube video, I'll post it there, and I get 100 likes for a meme, a lot of user engagement. And if I post a video or something a little more serious, the algorithm won't promote it, so I'll get like 8, 7 likes. So it's almost not worth my time. But yeah, even 7 likes is good exposure. So gotta keep grinding on the digital advertisement side of things, even though it's not really advertisement, right? It's just putting yourself out there. So we got a couple of visitors. Jay Shankar, hi. Think you joined us before. Welcome back. Hopefully I'm getting better at pronouncing your name. And Paul de Cortins. Haha, Dustin. How you doing? I'm being sneaky with this live streams and doing advertisement on our Discord group. Giving things a try. Good morning and good evening over here, middle of the night. But yeah, once I get the hang of it and become a pro like you, live streaming experts, I will I will recruit some of the folks on that on our little group. Paul from the UK. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm glad a few people are finding the videos useful. It's a lot of fun for me to get to play with the electronics, and if it's useful for others, I'm glad that's the case. Welcome. Come on, I've seen I've seen you, and this is my second official day streaming, I would call it, and yeah, it's been terrible. I wouldn't call it necessarily terrible, but the camera, the webcam kept shutting off, and a few hiccups here and there, but slowly getting the hang of it. So in that regard, if your camera doesn't turn off midstream, then to me you're a pro. So Jay Shankar, how to create a static IP for the ESP8266? You, I'm not gonna show the whole thing, but you wanna, one way of doing it is running it as an access point. So instead of having it connect to your Wi-Fi router and doing all that good stuff, having it act as the router itself, and then other devices connect to your ESP8266. And in that case, you can tell it exactly what IP it's going to have. But if you wanted to have a static IP in your network, then you need to work with your Wi-Fi router and tell it that this device needs to keep a constant IP address. So it depends on your setup. I can answer it directly, but you need to make sure that whatever it's assigning the IP address, in this case might be your Wi-Fi router, is able to just give it the same address every time. So that's a good idea, Imran. WhatsApp, I hadn't thought about it just because WhatsApp is not very popular in the US. I use it to talk to my friends from Argentina, but people in the US don't use WhatsApp very much, at least the people I know. So yeah, I hadn't thought about it. I opened the Discord group, but that was about it for chatting. Let me see if there is a bit of an interest in doing a WhatsApp group, and then I don't mind, you know, putting one, but there isn't one right now. Uh, so 349. So wagon loads. You're in the East Coast, my friend, and from your line of question, I think you might be either in high school, not high school, a little bit after high school, right? Like if you're trying to turn your robotics into a business and thinking along those lines. So just the combination of it being 3:49 local time and the interest that you have of starting a business around robotics leads me to believe you're close to like your early 20s. I'm doing deduction here. Anyway, if you want to go to bed, don't let me stop you. Just to get a good night's sleep is always important. Let's see. Translation be enabled so that you can continue. I have to look into that. The translation. I If you give me 5 minutes, I can check. Joe, I did it for you, man. Those bubbles were driving me crazy. I mean, they're kind of still there, but yeah, I just resized the webcam to cover it. But just for kicks and giggles, if I turn off the GoPro, they're kind of static. I don't know if they'll be moving on your side of things. I'm just looking at it on my Streamlabs application, but in a second you'll be able to see it because I turned off the GoPro, and I'll go back on and I'll cover them for you. I knew that was gonna be the case. Wow. All right. Sorry, wagon loads, for the horrible miscalculation. Yeah. I think I'm a Dustin. I think I'm a few brain cells short for being in the conversation, for being a replacement for one Doctor or Mr. Holmes. Dr. Holmes? But yeah, I like I like deduction a whole lot. It drives my wife a little bit crazy. Um, just because I'll say she's an engineer, an aerospace engineer, a very smart woman, but if I if we're having a conversation and I'm trying to figure out something, I would like grab her phone and say, "No, don't look it up. Don't go on Google. Let's just talk through this and deduce it." So I do have that going for me apparently. Hey T, how you doing? Joe, yeah. I don't know what happens to the bubbles, but maybe I'm sure when I refresh Streamlabs, it'll go because it's just a little video animation playing in the background. It's not my doing. It's a comes with a theme that I bought that has the little thingies on top. Let's see what's a good window. Come on, I always do this and I mess it up. There we go. So this is how my Creator Studio looks like. And obviously you see now the recursiveness of having it in the screen that is capturing. But yeah, it's just a whole bunch of things that you see right here in the middle that comes as part of the theme, and one of those is a damn bubbles animation. So it's not my doing. So wagon loads 1977. Not gonna calculate your age, but yeah, as I was saying before, a gross miscalculation on my part. But for what it's worth, very impressed that you're up and up and running at 3:49 a.m. So, and that you're getting into robotics right after having graduated that many years ago. Getting into robotics as a business is what I mean. So my friend T, you have a problem for the ESP8266 at point-to-point communication. I mean, it's a specific question. I can answer it right now. If not, you can always email me. It takes me a little while, but I was telling other folks on the chat that starting a Discord precisely to field some of these questions, and so that you guys can get a hold of me, and also we start a community, and say if there are common, frequently asked questions, I can have them consolidated in one place. And I'm posting the link once again. And yeah, that's what I'll be using for with the community for starting to, you know, answer some of these questions and keep them in one centralized place as opposed to answering each one of you individually. Nice. John, you guys. How about you, John? If you don't mind me asking, what's the local time for you? Since you mentioned you're about the same age, are you also on the same time zone? Oh man, that's awesome. Well, if you just turned 50, then very happy birthday. If you just well didn't just turn 50, happy belated birthday, and also like congrats on hitting the big 50. That's a big milestone. Oh man, yep, you're in the same time zone, so nice. Respect to that. For me, it's as you can see up here in the corner, it's close to 1 a.m. And honestly, and I'm not trying to flex on anyone. Wait, so how can it, if you're in the UK, how can it be 4 a.m.? Oh, I see. In the morning. Okay, nice. Shouldn't it be 11 or 10 a.m. in the UK? Yeah, no, I got my comments confused. So the ones on the same time zone are Joe and Wagon Loads. All right, got it, got it. So yeah, John, you're yeah, you've already had breakfast. I was getting ready to do an early lunch, maybe. Yeah, 9 a.m. It's only 8 hours right now. Okay. Nice. Yeah, sorry, John. I realized it a little bit too late. South of Detroit, nice. But yeah, if you for those of you who didn't hear before, I'm out here in Pasadena. Yeah, for me it's Pacific Standard Time. So, but I yeah, as I'm seeing a few of you are as well. I'm a night owl, so I don't necessarily will sleep in either. I have relatively short sleeping hours, which is great because at least it's not as necessary anymore. But back when I was starting doing this for a living, not the streaming but the selling of electronics, and I was doing a little bit of consulting on the side, then yeah, I needed all those hours to get things done. But I still have the habit of staying awake right now with the whole stay at home. I'll probably go for a run in about an hour, do a little, get my exercise for the day without any people around, and with I live in the city. It's a suburb, but still fairly busy, so I don't have to deal with traffic lights. I can do my run without worrying about getting run over or stopping at every freaking intersection, which makes it a little bit more cumbersome. And yeah, night owls unite. Let's go. So I'll go for a run and then watch something on the TV at the end of the day and just pass out for a few hours. DIY in the ghetto. I'm loving that username already. Welcome. This is my second time doing one of these live things. I did, in full disclosure, technically it's my fourth time, but the first two I just put it on my cell phone and I just showed what I was working on. This one I kind of prepared for, and I would call it an official live stream. But it's this one is the second one of those. I did one last night. A few of you were there and helped me, debug some of the things that needed to be debugged. And today I'm a little bit more comfortable with all the tools and everything that's going on. So I'm glad this is your first. Just note that I'm not necessarily that far from you. But into flight simulations, John. Oh man, I used to be as a kid not having flown for a while, but that sounds like a really fun project. And obviously, if you run into any trouble, more than happy, more than happy to help pretty much anyone. But if people are working on a project that I enjoy and would like to do myself, perhaps I'm gonna be a bit more responsive. And glad to hear. So for DIY in the ghetto, what time is it for you locally? Guess we have a few people on the east coast of the US, and then some people out in the UK. So a range from 4 in the morning to 10 a.m. we have. Joe, a Chino bar. If it's not paired with a Corvette or a fancy car, I think you're. I don't know if you would call that fancy. I'm talking with someone near Detroit. I don't want to get into trouble, but yeah, I think you're okay. And I don't think you can tell from the tiny view of my camera, but personally, I have a little heavy bag behind those two lights that are behind me for, it's a great stress reliever. I used to play soccer growing up, and my knees are no bueno, not very good anymore. So try to pick up boxing and do a little bit of amateur boxing, which is an incredible workout. So I put up a bag, hit it every now and again, and I have a double-ended bag on this side. Maybe I'll do a tour of the lab one of these days and show you the electronics I have here, the printers, and then the workout equipment while we're at it. So, what electronics do I sell, and what type of consultancy do I do? I haven't done. I'll start with the consultancy. I don't do it anymore. Haven't done it for a while. But when I was starting the business, I, it's what I did, and it was anything and everything. I was fortunate enough to know a lot of stuff, from web development to, full stack development, etc., to the electronics, right? So, but I have very little depth of knowledge, right? Like if you ask me something com- relatively complex in one of those areas, it's like I can figure it out if you give me long enough. But I was able to do a whole bunch of work from web development to, say, a company that wanted to take pictures of feet because they had a patent for when you go to a shoe store, you go into this machines that are able to photograph your feet and tell you what type of shoe is best based on what you're looking for, how they fit. So anyway, I was working with those companies that wanted to develop an app. They had an app person, they didn't have a computer vision person, and I did a little bit of computer vision in grad school. So anyways, I did all sorts of things related to programming, engineering, and electronics for consultancy. But once my own business took off, which is just selling electronics, then I stopped doing that. And as of last year, it's going well enough that I asked myself what's next. And that's when I got into doing a little bit of YouTube, doing the projects, and hoping that that becomes another source of revenue just through YouTube, right? Like having the the ad revenue. I'm sorry, I have to put ads, but that's the only way I can make this effort sustainable. And yeah, even though the views alone for people like us that don't have like a massive following, even not even myself, I only have about 20,000 followers. Even for people with 100,000 followers, it's not that much money. But then you get sponsors, and that's a way to monetize this effort. So I'm trying to like explore that and see how far I can take it. And for the type of electronics that I sell, I started designing my own boards before we had like the ESP8266, the ESP32, all these nice boards. Connecting sensors to the web was in diapers, was in that field, was in its infancy. So I did a little just environmental sensor with a few friends. We put it on Kickstarter. It did okay. And that was our first product, or my first product on this company. They were selling it in Europe. I was selling it out here. And then people would go to the online store and said, hey, can I buy some prototyping cables? Do you have anything else? Do you have other sensors? So I started putting more uh, of these products, the typical DIY electronic products that I use on my videos, this type of boards. I started putting them on the store and people kept buying them. And now I think I'm up to close to 200 products. I started selling on Amazon. So it all grew from there. So it's this type of electronics. And I used to have about half that I would design, like my own shields or hats for the Raspberry Pi, shields for Arduino. And lately, yeah, it's more of having other companies do the manufacturing and I do the selling, right? Like once the store became big enough, then it's easier for me to do reselling. So that's my line of business. And again, just on my own site, acrobatic.com, and also through Amazon, which I think I've been doing it for 3 years, and that's really what took the little DIY electronics company to the next level. But I still would like to keep it as just my own thing, and I think it's easier that way. I do have a friend who handles the administrative stuff. He's been my best friend for 25 years. So I think that's about all I can handle for, you know, working in a business with other people. So far so good, and people like yourselves on the chat are a big part of it because again the videos get popular, people learn about the company, and it all goes from there. So DIY in the ghetto, 4 a.m. New Jersey. Nice. Born and raised in Jersey. Respect, man. All right. Is I hate to ask, but is that why the username? Are you calling Jersey a ghetto, man? That's messed up. That's messed up. Been to Jersey, and yeah, as with everywhere, some parts are ghetto, some parts are not. But I'm just messing with you. It's just a funny username. I like it. Anybody working on a fun project? I was talking with a few of the other people before, so by all means, I want to see what my competition is. Nah, just kidding. I want to see what people are working on, just out of plain curiosity. But yeah, and again, for those of you, if you start working on the flight simulations stuff, keep me in the loop. It's something that it's always on the back of my mind, getting back into gaming. Um, yeah, maybe with the live streaming, I'll give it a try. Do a little flight simulator. Hey, that's an idea. If I install the flight simulator and I combine it with the electronics, just having, I'm not gonna steal the idea of the feedback stick, but yeah, just a fun little controller instead of something like this. Just silly DIY, maybe with a potentiometer, control one of the degrees of freedom of a simulator. I can justify spending some time playing a little bit of flight sim. So yeah, I love how this idea sort of organically arise on this kind of chats. Yeah, also Joe, getting back to the liberal consultancy, their the patent that this company had was used for the shoe fitting. You know how patents work, but meaning that probably somebody else had it for making the insoles, or maybe they had to use this company's patents to use the same technology for selling you insoles, which is a huge market. I agree. So that was actually a fun project. I thought I would never get to use computer vision out in the wild, and yeah, that was that was fun. So for the Amazon store, I try to, you'll see me plug it on on every video, but luckily Amazon gets so much traffic that almost it advertises itself. Since I'm like a professional, they call it a professional seller on the Amazon jargon. So if you buy a product, it's all fulfilled by Amazon and all that. And since I have the trademark on the sort of acrobatic word, I'm able to partner up with Amazon, so you can just access it like that, or the other way around. So it'll be Amazon.com shops acrobatic, and even if you just go Amazon.com/acrobatic, you'll see a collection of my items. So Trenton, New Jersey. Grace in the ghetto, nice. And you got out, and now you're back. But it seems like you get to travel around, so it sounds like a fun line of business. And they say that there's no place like home, so yeah, as long as you're staying out of trouble, I'm sure gonna be it's gonna be okay. Oh, nice. All right, Flight Simulator 2020, yeah, and the way things are going, particularly as I'm learning that a few of you are up there in the age category, right? It's not a terrible time to spend a few more hours inside the house, yada yada. Again, I don't want to derail the conversation into that, but yeah, Flight Simulator 2020 plus a project sounds like a good use of your time indoors. Nice. Wagon loads and DIY in the ghetto connected by a river. That's awesome. Oh, nice. Well, DIY in the ghetto, let's keep it that way. You know, many years from now, that's something you can just put it as a footprint, as a fine print, sorry, footprint, as a fine print in your tombstone again, many years from now. I'm the first one in my family without a record. Uh, so let's keep it that way. Then, are you working on any projects out there in Jersey? Do you get time between all the traveling to work on some projects? I've never been to Delaware, by the way, so kind of curious how life is. I think maybe I've driven through it in one of my East Coast trips, but yeah. Nice, yeah. I guess that's a little less dark to put it on the curriculum. Oh, nice, dude. Yeah, ESP 32. It's a whole lot of fun. I want to try to get into a few Bluetooth projects. Yes, I know it's there, at least for the first generation. I think I did one video on it, but that's not nearly enough. But again, I already have my plan set for the next couple of videos. I'm not gonna derail myself, but yeah, it's a fun chip to play with. Oh, no worries, man. I try to be a joker as well, so hopefully people find a little bit of humor into what I say. But yeah, I always appreciate people in good spirits and not taking themselves too seriously. So I I welcome the jokes. I see. Oh, nice. Working with a few sensors for geolocation. Cool. Are you using the Google API or something more sophisticated, like your own GPS sensor, and trying to figure it out from there? Because as I read it, with Wi-Fi geolocation, to me that means that you're using the IP address, running it through one of these APIs, like Google has a geolocation API, and trying to get your coordinates, latitude and longitude from there. And I haven't heard of MeshNet. I imagine it's a library for doing mesh networking. So, Midlody, how you doing, my friend? Nice. I try to keep this on the down low. Uh, as I have like a new rig set up, I was telling other people, and I've been trying to test it out. Yesterday was the first day. Today's the second day, and I wanted to iron out all the quirks before I said, "Hey, do you guys want to join the chat and join the live stream?" So welcome, man. The secret is out. Nice. I guess it's 10:20 a.m. for you, Bitlooney. I am in Pasadena, so 1:20 a.m. West Coast of the U.S. Sorry, Pasadena, California. I don't know if you made it out to HackerCon, SuperCon, the one from Hackaday. If you came last year, I lived like 6 blocks from where the conference was. I meant to, stop by and say hello to the people that I follow. I don't think we knew each other or all that well back then, or knew each other. I knew of your existence. I don't know if it was, but same with Dave Darko and a few others that I think made the trip. And yeah, I was too lazy to stop by, but that won't be the case if a few of you decide to make the trip over. I see. So just GPS locally. Nice. But yeah, there's always that option if you're using a for DIY in the ghetto. If there's always the option, if you have a internet connection, you can always use your IP to get a rough idea, and if that information is useful, as long as you're not making too many requests. The Google API is free. Yeah, Dustin was the first one who showed up, and I was like, yeah, these are these are the typical times where I see, he'll post it on the Discord chat, and people will complain, and it's like, it's kind of fun. So I did the same thing, try to sneak it past you guys. But yeah, no, Bitlooney was he was a bummer. And I have a few friends actually on the Hackaday thing that could have probably just gotten me in. I just needed to push myself out the door. And yeah, but I'm sure our paths will cross, even if we just go raid Brian's house at some point. His fancy new house, by the way. uh, I'm sure our paths shall cross. Yeah, no, I think Bitlooney has done all sorts of projects. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if he's done a text messaging smoke detector, but I can't recall seeing it. Uh-huh. Is he doing is unexpected? Is Sion doing a live stream as well? Haha, now you know one person with Looney that people did watch that video. Oh, I see. Not a live stream. Yeah, no, I guess he just posted a tweet about a channel update and some sad news, so now I'm curious. See, now you have two people with Looney who watch your video. Where's my Discord? Oh man, I see something staring, which I'm completely unaware of, but I'm kind of curious to see what happened. Oh, I see. All right. Hey, John, how are you? I need to pull up my chat. No worries, Dustin. You know, I don't mind it. Um, you know, if people see me struggling a little bit, at least from the folks that are on the content creation side, I think hopefully they can empathize. So I was just joking around for the most part, saying that I wanted to keep it on the down low. I also don't want to necessarily spam the Discord group every time I'm doing something on YouTube. As much fun as I have when all of you join in, I don't want to disturb you too much from your own line of work. Yeah, I don't think Bitlooney makes videos, and if he does, they're probably very bad. Nah, just kidding. Awesome. I'm glad, John, that you found the video useful. They're fun to make, and again, it's an added reward that other people actually, you know, find the content useful. So, and thanks for letting me know, right? I can keep posting videos and, you know, happy that people are watching them, but I would never know if the content is serving any purpose. So, thanks. Same for you, Manuel. Manuel. Yeah, sorry, I butcher people's name constantly on the chat. Trying my best. Um, but yeah, no, thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad you find the information not terrible. So nah, I'm kidding. I put a lot of effort and I have fun with making the projects. But I'd like teaching. I was saying before that I wanted to stay in academia and maybe try to become a professor. That didn't work out because of reasons. So I was doing the electronics and trying to make products, sell them. And I think as of last year is, hey, if I use YouTube as a way to communicate with others and try to teach something, that'd be a fun challenge. And a year and a half later of really putting effort into it, um, I'm enjoying where it's gone. So I see. So sending binary. I see. Nice. Yeah, no, for the most part I just do text. I format it as a JSON string, as you've probably seen, and that's good enough. But are you looking into sending binary for, the sakes of making it faster, or something else? Thanks, Vidlu. Happy that maybe you can relate that you make something and people find it of value, right? And I don't necessarily need that validation, but once it's there, not gonna lie, it feels good. I don't feel validated. It's just it feels like I'm not wasting my time, so that makes me happy. Thanks, DIY in the ghetto. You stay out of trouble and keep making fun projects. And anytime you have a question, by all means, feel free to jump in here, post a comment, or if you got the link to the Discord, then jump on there. Hi, Sino. How you doing? John, for speed's sake, I see. Yeah, no, Jason has way too much formatting, and even if you, yeah, it's a pain to write to. So yeah, and then there are other protocols, right? You don't necessarily need to use WebSockets. You can move to MQTT for if you really want to get serious about being lightweight and speedy. But WebSockets is just fantastic. So for a variety of reasons, right? I left it at that, but I go over them in the few videos I've made on the subject. The main reason is because you can transmit data in real time, so or near real time. Nothing really happens in real time. Thanks, Speed. I'm glad that's the case, that that's working for you. And again, I know a lot of people want hey, I have this specific project. I'm not saying that's your case, but I've gotten many requests. Hey, I'm working on this project. How can I go about it? Can you make a video tutorial? And as you all have seen, I try to keep the tutorials as broad as possible and as simple as possible. So the idea is that you can take that piece of code and just repurpose it for your own applications. I find it annoying that I would say most projects out there, right? At least this is my experience. You need like a component of it, like a very simple thing, and you have to dig through thousands and thousands of lines of code. I don't know about thousands, but several lines of code, extract the component that you want, and then it probably won't work because it has all these embedded dependencies, and it's just annoying. So all my projects, right, if you want to use WebSockets, you have the bare bones components in there, and it's up to you. Like, I know I have one video where I'm just using one sensor and sending the data over WebSockets and plotting the data. I have the code to plot the data, but it's super simple. Somebody wanted to plot data from a second sensor, and it's like, well, yeah, it's, you copy paste the code, but I know it's not that simple. And it's like, yeah, but can you help me? It's like, well, again, with that many people on the channel, I can make video specific for your application. And the reason I didn't use two sensors is to keep the code as basic as possible, so that anybody can use it. That's my philosophy. So yeah, a bit loony. I feel the responsibility of not letting all of these people down. So, but I also have fun with it, and I know a few people, they get discouraged. I don't think that's anybody I interact with, yourself, Brian, that they get discouraged when they work so hard on a video and it doesn't do well. Yeah, I want to be, a good YouTuber, have that be perhaps a source of revenue, but I also just have fun with making the projects. And now I get to work. For the longest time I was just selling the electronics, and now I get to build projects. That's an improvement. Like, yeah, I'm creating stuff, even if it's relatively simple, then I still find it fun. So I'm not desperate, like looking at the views, how many views it's gotten. So I think that takes a little bit of the negative aspect out of those responsibilities. Nice. Yeah. And I don't know, John, I'm looking at your comments on how you're limited by the transfer rate. It depends on how you package the data. I don't know if you know of Charles Lohr. So let me pull him up. Might as well do it here. He has a really cool application for WebSockets, and he transmits data pretty fast in the kilohertz range, if I recall correctly. Thanks, Bitlooney. I think I follow him, so I'm gonna try to find him. I don't know how his last name is spelled. Charles. Nope. I was getting patient. There we go. That's exactly. I see. It wasn't populated just quite yet. And I'm gonna find it on GitHub. Yeah. Yeah, no, Charles is great, and yeah, you're absolutely right with Looney. not to take this too seriously, but yeah, some people really get into it, and their emotions get tied to the process, and yeah, that's always. It seems that it's always a room for. I wouldn't call it disaster, right? But you see all these really famous YouTubers at one point or another just become burnt out. Like I'm talking about the iJustines or whatever, like the really popular ones. Yeah, I mean, there's that Batman quote, right? That you either die young or live long enough to whatever. And yeah, maybe Bidluni, you stand at 112,000 followers, so maybe you're on your way of caring more and more about it. And I don't know, man. Keep your feet on the ground, Bidluni. Yeah, no, I can see you having a lot of great chats with Charles, but I wanted to point John to his color chord uh, repository where he's doing, yeah, so you can see here that he's able to get data. I guess it wasn't in the kilohertz. I was misremembering. At least in the hundreds of hertz data on a WebSocket just for transmitting color data to RGB strips and stuff like that. So if you wanna, again, he uses WebSockets. I think it's outside of the Arduino ecosystem, but if you wanna have just a look to see if it helps for your oscilloscope purposes, then why not? But I agree that probably figuring out how to transmit the data in binary is the way to go for that application. I'm laughing at your comment, John. Of yeah, leave a good looking corpse. Come on, man. Obviously, it's hard to keep track of all this, but if it's not you, then you can follow the example of whoever bought the chin-up bar. Despite the age, you know, Kiva still have a good looking corpse. So yeah, DIY in the ghetto. The YouTubes are a great resource, and for coding, man, it's just practice, practice, practice. And I'm not just saying that, right? But same with sports, anything else, it's just about practice. But the thing with coding that I don't think it's similar than I played sports, and it's not similar to sports. For coding, there's that aha moment where things click, and you don't know what you did or how long you've been going at it. But when things click, like yeah, you'll know what I mean. But that takes time and a little bit of practice. Not that practice will make you necessarily a good coder, but you'll be exposed to it for long enough that you'll get that aha moment and it'll click. And I don't know, something about the neurons like just make the right connections, and you just start looking at it a little bit differently. That's how it was for me. So that's the best way I can put it, and I think it might be the case for you. Different people understand things differently. Some people are more literal, but I remember you starting to program and things not making quite a lot of sense. Like I could write code, I didn't necessarily understand it, and then all of a sudden, it still progressed from there. But once things click, yeah, it's a whole nother story. So Biluni, the big question is, did you request the silver play button? Or I don't know how long ago you crossed it. I don't know if they sent it, honestly. I think I probably would have seen something or Brian making fun of you. But I just read today on a different Discord group that someone had to request it. So So an Arduino based HPIB interface. Yeah, that that might be also a good resource. So Platform IO as an alternative to Arduino IDE, I've looked at Platform IO and I know of its benefit. I think a little bit of that old school mindset that I want to run it on my computer. I can't rely on the cloud, and I don't want to be debugging things that I don't have complete control over. So that's why I keep all my code on the Arduino IDE. It's a very stupid mindset, but because at the very least I could make a video for, hey, here's how to use Platform IO. But no, I think when it first came out, I might have run a couple of sketches there, but that's about it. Have you tried it, Pete? Bitloon, it took them a month to send it out, or yeah, sometimes old school is the way to go, baby. For those that are curious, I think I posted it to Instagram, but yeah, this is what I'm looking at right now. So I changed from my laptop webcam to just might as well use the GoPro since I have it, and use a monitor up here where I have my you know Creator Studio Streamlab OBS that I'm showing on screen, and then just my general working monitor on the top left. So again, this is day number 2, actually day number 1 of using the GoPro, day number 2 of using this rig. So far so good. All right, Bitlooney, thanks for stopping by, man. I see. Why do you say that it's teaching you to be more careful, I guess, with the programming? Nice. That's funny how you have that inverted DIY in the ghetto. It's like your parents asking you to act your age, your, I guess, chronological or physical age. That's funny. think it's, looking at the time, I think I'm gonna call it an evening. So, oh man, at 1:49 in the morning. I think gonna get ready to go out for a quick run before hitting the hay, getting ready for tomorrow. And I think you're the lone last survivor of the chat DIY in the ghetto. But remember, yeah, just practice the programming, stay out of trouble, and um, send any questions that you have. Join the Discord if you want, but email or uh, a comment on the videos work as well. Oh no, you guys were just laying on the tall grass. But yeah, all right, wagon loads. You take care. Have a good evening, or early morning, I should say. But yeah, thanks for joining the chat and the live stream. Hope to see some of you, all of you, again in the future. Hey, thanks a lot for stopping by, Dustin. Nice. DIY in the ghetto. And let me read. I'll read your last few messages. So when you see programming it, you want it to be locally online. You really don't have any control over it. I'm gonna take a screenshot so I can take it from here next time we chat. I'll give you a more eloquent answer in the morning for my friend Pete. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't necessarily get that impression of the Arduino IDE getting you get away with stuff, but I don't, I don't have it. I don't have anything to compare since I haven't used Platform IO. Thanks so much, DIY in the ghetto. I really appreciate it, man. But yeah, these are tough times for all of us. So by all means, I encourage you guys to just hop in and have fun on these live streams. Yeah, save your money for your family. I'm just happy to interact with people who like electronics, but I really appreciate the support. I was reading Pete's response, but yeah, no, I don't have Platform IO to compare, right? But I'd be surprised if one is more rigorous than the other. But yeah, I respect your impression as well. I'm not trying to deny it, but that makes me more curious to try Platform IO. Good night, Joe. Take care. Oh, by all means, DIY in the ghetto. When I'm out there in Jersey or Georgia, I'll pay it forward. Buy you a proverbial beer for paths cross. But no, man, really appreciate it, man. Obviously after reading that, I appreciate it that much more. All right, so I'll keep Platform IO on the radar as well. Yeah, Joe, I'm also curious what happened with Unexpected Maker. I'll go check that out as well. I see, so Platform IO forces forward declarations. All right. meaning you need to say declare your function prototype before you use it. Yeah, I find that to be a little bit forgiving from Arduino, but it's just a different C++ standard that they're using. The most modern, even if you're just writing raw C++, the latest standard that they've released, right, is like HTML, these organizations that say, that regulate what the standard for writing the code should be. They've approved that change on the language, that you don't need those declarations before you use the functions, amongst a whole bunch of other changes. So it's just a language that keeps evolving. And I think from what you're telling me, Arduino uses a later version of the C++ standard than Platform IO does. So that's kind of interesting. I see. A coffee then, instead of a beer. All right. Good night, y'all. It's been fun. I'm gonna be doing this a whole lot more regularly now that I have the rig and getting more used to it. Hope you found it fun. I certainly did. So thank you for stopping by. Have a good night.